Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Whiskey Lounge. I am one of your hosts, Brandon. I'm going to go around and introduce my astutely professional friends. We're going to start with my friend Nick over here.
What's happening, everybody? My name's Nick. Welcome back to another episode of the Whiskey Boys podcast.
And next up, we have Trevor.
Hi, my name's Trevor. Welcome to the Whiskey Boys.
Yep, and Wyatt is not with us today because I don't know what he's doing. I don't remember. He told me, and I am a bad friend, and I do not remember, but that's okay. We will be able to survive without him this week. Um, so I say we jump right into this. CNN, racism exists, even if you are the same race as the person you're doing whatever action against. Truly beautiful. Tyre Nichols, the gentleman that, or I believe that's the way you pronunciate it, the gentleman who was beaten by five black police officers in down in
Memphis.
Tennessee. Yeah, Memphis. My bad. Down in Memphis, Tennessee. CNN claims that there's still racism here.
I love it. I love
I,
how their
I love
opinion
it.
piece just
I,
puts it right out front, saying that the police who killed Tyre Nichols were black, but they might still have been driven by racism. It's wonderful. I love it.
Truly astonishing. These five police officers, thankfully, have been charged. I think only two of them with murder. I can't quite remember the charges for the other ones. The one who tased him initially isn't fired. He's on leave. The other ones, I believe they're fired. Some other people are getting fired in the case. Um, One thing that I found that was a little interesting is that the job requirements for, I believe it was two or three of the officers, they joined after job requirements were lowered, which really shows this problem when it comes down to defund the police and any of those foolish ideologies in regards to those.
Well, I mean, considering everything that's happened here recently, who wants to work as a police officer these days, you know?
Me.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying though. It's kind of everybody's getting targeted. So all these police officers that are going in, they're trying to do their civic duty and protect the people, whatever. And then something bad happens, and I'm not saying that all of them are good officers. Like a lot of the ones that are being caught doing all of these things and rightfully, and they're getting prosecuted rightfully, and justice is being served rightfully. But it makes the average Joe that was thinking about it, going and pursuing a criminal justice degree and going to be an officer, second guess that and be like, well, I don't want to end up on CNN and later in jail because, I, I was trying to serve justice and things went awry and, whatever else.
Yeah,
uh,
my friend or our friend Parker at one point had said something very interesting to me. He said his uncle is a police officer, but the way that Parker looks at it, and he's got an interesting way of thinking himself, but he thinks of it as like you couldn't get into anything else job. Like it's been so, how would you, what's the word? It's been brought down so many pegs on whatever pedestal it used to be on that it's looked at as like a job that you get if there's nothing else you can do.
No,
according
absolutely.
according to the New York Post, that two of the police officers had joined the department in August of 2020, which was 2 years after the department had dramatically loosened the education qualifications to become an officer. So it looks like that the Memphis Police Department started lowering their standards for their officers back in 2018. So
Yeah.
so by loosening their standards for education, it also looks like they loosened their standards for physical fitness and new recruits, primarily education and fitness, from what I'm seeing so far, according to the New York Post.
Yeah, I also believe with the written test, like there was more leeway. I believe you can get more wrong. I don't remember the specifics, but there was more than just the physical aspect and the actual educational aspect as well.
Mhm. It it seems like we're constantly being inundated with more and more police brutality videos. And I'm actually very surprised that the mainstream media is covering the story as heavily as they have been, considering it's not their normal demographic for the police officers who are committing the beatings that they normally try to go after.
Well, I don't know if you've seen, but there's it's not just CNN saying that this is still a byproduct of racism. There's oh God, I believe it was the View, the extremely intelligent people on the View.
Ah, yes.
They were they were saying something along the lines of like it's like embedded racism, where even like a black business owner, if a black individual walks in, they're gonna be more scared than rather than a white individual, even if they're a black business owner. It's all ridiculous. It's like reverse racism. I guess that's not a good way to put it, because racism just exists as is, but it's all completely ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I'm reading through this CNN opinion piece. If you scroll down a little bit further down, they have a highlighted in bold: "Black people are not immune to anti-black messages." Like, how can you try to push the whole racism narrative if you're growing up in the city, you're surrounded by I'm in the areas that these police officers patrolled in, primarily black neighborhoods. So if you're constantly getting inundated by the anti-black messages, where are you getting them from? You're obviously not getting them from from the people that you're around. So what's the push for it all?
I
Yeah,
think that they're
especially
trying
in
to say that
Memphis.
it's just in the society, like, but if you're saying that this is a black community and it's your own culture that you're perpetuating, unless you're just saying, oh, well, we're watching these TV shows, but nowadays there's everybody's in the culture, everybody's creating this culture. So I don't know what the message that they're trying to purvey here is basically just saying like this is still a bad thing, which obviously it is, but it's also still because white people are bad, essentially. Like that's what they're saying. Like white people are bad, and this is still a white on black violence issue, even though it was African American officers assaulting an African American man.
I mean, I wish we could just take the race completely out of it. It regardless the fact whether he was white, black, Asian, regardless the fact whether police officers were white, black, or Asian. This the abuse of power that the police showed against this man, which even though you saw in the videotape of the reason why they pulled him over, they went way above and beyond with the way that they beat this man. Like, we need to focus more on the cultural aspect of the police brutality and not so much the race.
What this really
Absolutely.
is this is a byproduct of defund the police. When you defund the police, this is what happens. You get the lower requirements, you get the I don't take this I don't want this to be taken the wrong way or out of context. You get the lesser like educated, the lesser prepared individuals. You don't put them out there as prepared. Rather, it's a kind of thing that needs more funding for more training, better
Yeah.
crisis management. This is the byproduct of the defund the police movement, and it's just going to get worse.
They're hiring people that have not gone through these criminal justice courses, have had extensive amounts of training because they can't afford to give them that training, and they're putting them on the streets when they probably shouldn't be. At least not yet. They haven't received the training that they need, and that's why if you continue to defund the police, you're not going to be attracting the individuals that you want to be in these jobs. In fact, I think that police officers likely should be getting more. It should be an attractive job to go after, so it's a competitive job to you know go for. I mean, you don't see articles about doctors butchering people and making all these kinds of mistakes and whatever, because if you're going in to be a doctor, you have 8 years of school, and even then you're still learning while you're on the job. It's not just something, oh well, I'm gonna go do 1 year of police academy. That's kind of not even really that hard of a curriculum, I imagine. I can't speak personally on it. Maybe it is very rigorous depending on where you go and whatever, but it's 1 year, and then they might do somewhat regular trainings in and out, but even then it's nowhere near as much, and that's being evidenced by all these police beatings and police brutality cases that have been popping up here and there everywhere.
I mean, I know that a lot of the police training for to join the force is different state by state, hell, even county by county. It is very different depending on the funding that they get, the whoever the sheriff is, who decides what's more important to train on. I I firmly believe that this is also a huge societal difference between the training from state to state or even rural to city life. I mean, hell, out in the countryside, we vote on our sheriffs. If the police department is not doing what they need to do to protect the community, we vote his ass out. We vote somebody else in, whether it's a man or a woman. If they're going to bring change, they're going to bring change. But here in these cities, the police chiefs are all brought on by whoever the mayor is. So the chief doesn't really have any allegiance to the people or the community that they're trying to protect. They have the allegiance to the person who gave them the job. I think a lot of that stems down from trying to make your boss happy instead of your constituents happy.
I agree that a lot of it is kind of tied up in, especially with the police specifically in these larger cities, politics and funding issues, and that's really what it is. And a lot of them are just disconnected from what the status on the actual streets is. And I mean, it's like the uh, police chief in this circumstance in Memphis was said that she was appalled and can't believe like what she was seeing, but that just evidences that she's not been around her officers apparently. Like she doesn't know what that culture is like. And I'm not saying maybe she wasn't around these specific officers, because there was probably, I'm sure that there are good officers in Memphis, Tennessee, but you could still pick up on that culture, I'm sure, if you're around them more, if you're in touch more with your community and the people that are serving under you. You would have a sense and be like, okay, well, they need more training. And it'll be interesting to see if they actually start implementing more training. I know that I read that they were going to consider, or they were considering disbanding the Scorpion unit that these officers were part of. Maybe that's necessary, but it seems like kind of an afterthought, like, oh, well, what can we do to kind of save face here?
I mean, it seems like right now all the Memphis police is trying to do, at least from the way it seems, it's just all PR. It's all PR right now. They're trying to do everything they can to try to cover their asses, to try to cover up everything, saying everything's good now, everyone's been reprimanded, trying to get ahead of it before the storm kicks in. Len, I do think that these officers need to be charged based on the video. I'm not on the jury. I have nothing to do with their court case because their day in court will come. I think they should get the whole book thrown at them for what they did to this man. 100%.
Well, if we're to talk about the video, so it is true, certain, but the I don't I'm not a lawyer. I don't understand the law to its fullest. I have a friend who's a lawyer, so I have like a very slight understanding. It's gonna be individual by individual. Like I said, only two of them are probably gonna be charged with murder. The one that initially tased him when he did run away is probably gonna get charged with something, not murder though. It's going to be complicated. It's going to be a very complex trial. There's really nothing that we can say or really even predict until it actually happens.
All five, according to the New York Times, all five of the officers have been charged with multiple felonies, including second-degree murder.
They're all going to be charged with felonies, but
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure
some
all
of
of
them are
them
going to get
have
plea
been
deals.
charged with murders. Yeah,
they're going to make an
One of-
example of a couple of them, probably the more, guilty,
Egregious ones.
so to say. Yeah, the more
Yeah.
egregious of the officers, like the ones that you can clearly see in the videos, doing something and beating him. But I mean, I don't see that as the issue necessarily. Like, obviously, they're going to get their justice. Like, they're going to be served their justice, all of them. I don't think that anybody is thinking that they aren't. I think that it's just an issue where we're still seeing, all of these quote unquote peaceful protests that are happening, and they're getting their justice. I don't know what more people are looking for here and why it's being made into even more of an issue when the justice is being served. And I get that there is a movement that should be made towards, okay, well, let's find the real issue here, which is not enough training, not having the right people for the right jobs here, which is clear. It's evidenced.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
we shouldn't be sticking on it and, continuing to talk about, oh, well, like CNN is saying, it's racism, when that's not the issue. It's not racism. That's not why this happened. It was poor
Not racist.
training. It's maybe a cultural thing in so that police brutality has just become a cultural thing, but even that is not clearly evidence. That something has to be, you know, proven before you can just say that.
I mean, no matter how bad the videos are, no matter how bad the police cam footage is, we have a society where we have a judicial system that is based on innocent until proven guilty. As of right now, the way that everyone's making it out, which even by their police body cam footage itself, show, in my opinion, makes these men completely guilty. You're still considered innocent until proven guilty. So we have to go through the normal uh, judicial system before we can 100% say they're guilty. Have to go through the whole legal means.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have to go through the proper judicial proceedings and let justice be served properly, which is going to take time, which I think is kind of the issue. People want to see immediate justice, and media has become that platform for them. Is okay, well, we can speak about this, we can make say something, and that's our justice. Bashing down these people publicly, shaming them publicly, that's what quote unquote justice has become these days, because a lot of people are just impatient. They can't wait for these trials to go their natural course.
Oh no, everyone wants everything now. They want everything handed to them now. They want their justice served on a silver platter, regardless of whether or not everything was followed through to a T the way it's supposed to be done.
Instant gratification.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I'm interested to see how things are going to play out on this. I'm interested to see how the charges of all these officers follow through. And I'm also interested to see what's going to happen to the firefighters who were also relieved of duty after this incident. Because as of the last I checked up on the story, there were two firefighters who were relieved of duty based on the way that they handled Tyre Nichols on his way to the hospital from the scene.
Oh,
So I'm interested.
I haven't
Were
seen
they
the full like
firefighters or were they
53.
EMT?
Brandon, you were going to say something?
I said they were fire. I thought they were EMTs.
They were
Thing.
the fire department also has the EMTs that under their branch.
Okay.
So they're still considered emergency medical workers, but they have been relieved of duty as of right now, pending investigation. Not saying that they are going to be charged with anything. They are just undergoing an investigation on it right now.
Yeah, I haven't watched the extended like 50 something minutes of footage, so I have no idea what they might have actually done, whether I would perceive them and like assume or guess that they would be found guilty. So really the only ones that I could say anything about, and even then it's just pure skepticism. It depends on how the uh the jury rules it, but I mean definitely the cops are going to come down with some serious felony charges, I think.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I know that the media likes to play up the video, talking about how it's very reminiscent of the Rodney King video back in the 90s. It feels just as bad. Like, I know how much the media likes to play things up. It was rough to watch. I watched about
Arguably,
half of it, but it was pretty bad.
arguably, and honestly, not even arguably, probably correctly. It's theoretically it's worse than Rodney King.
Yeah, because
Rodney
Rodney King survived.
Rodney
Yeah.
King survived, and this was just something else. I don't remember if I believe it was Ben Shapiro. He said something. It was worse than Rodney King. I'm just inclined to agree.
No,
Not
I completely
not a
agree.
not a not a fucking excuse for them to go and peacefully protest, quote unquote. But still, it's worth pointing out. It is a hard video to watch. We need more information, though. I
Oh
don't
yeah.
know. They went. They went too far. They need to be served with justice. They need to have felony charges. Other other things need to be figured out. Tyre Nichols did run again, didn't prompt the response, but Tyre Nichols did run. He's not just a skateboarder who got pulled over. It's there's a
No,
lot on.
I think that there is some people that, don't understand, like, you're not supposed to run from officers, but at the same time, that doesn't give them a right to do what they did. Like, there are
Exactly.
definitely those situations where you can say, okay, well, he ran, so obviously they had to do something to stop him, but this just went blatantly too far. And I think
Up
everybody can
until
agree
they
with that.
started beating him, they tased him, they pepper sprayed him, but then they started pepper spraying him too much, and they started beating him, and then that's where you run into all your felony charges, your problems, and where they need to be charged, there needs to be justice.
And that's where the evidence of training issues is, because it's
Yeah,
when that adrenaline kicked in for all these officers is when things went too far. Initially they were just trying to stop somebody, and then shit started going south, and their training, which wasn't there apparently, didn't kick in. You know,
yeah. And they're allegedly the most elite unit that they have, the Scorpion unit.
which is kind of terrifying to think about, because what about all of the other events that have occurred that haven't been seen, that haven't made the light of day?
Absolutely.
Yeah, if that's their elite unit, I'd hate to see what their normal run of the mill cop looks like. How they would handle a situation like that.
Not to say that they would all be that bad or that would happen, because I mean, it is case by case, and there are good officers out there, but it is definitely clear there is a deficit of training.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Do we have
it's.
anything else on this?
I think our opinions on this are pretty well taken care of
I've said
at
my
this
Yeah,
point.
piece. Yeah.
Yeah.
so have I. So I'd say let's move on past this. I would like to say that we can get to something a little more happy-go-lucky. However, what the hell is going on in Chicago?
Yeah, there's a major story that, well, quote unquote, major story that broke at the beginning of January that very few people were talking about. There were over 470, I repeat, 470 different cases that started with Chicago public schools between the years of 2021 and 2022 for child grooming, the sexual assault of children, and even rape of the students that go to Chicago public schools. What in the hell is going on in Chicago?
I mean, I knew
Some
Chicago was bad, but I didn't think it was bad in this way.
No, it's truly disgusting.
It's
A
rotten
line
through
has
and through.
a line has to be drawn for everything, or everyone, I guess, needs a line. My line is children. Johnny, who we've unfortunately not had had on yet, honestly probably won't have on. We have the same general opinions on this. This is just truly despicable, truly disgusting, and this isn't even just an issue in Chicago. You have a lot of weird things going on in schools between this in and of itself, transgender ideology, just gay ideology, all that stuff. And a lot of people like to be like, oh, you're comparing gay and trans people to groomers. No, I'm not. I'm just saying that the slippery slope is there, and this is what you get. Yeah, this is what you get. It's disgusting. It's appalling.
I have a excerpt from the Guardian that was posted Saturday, January 7th, 2023. Quote, sexual misconduct allegation mired public schools in Chicago throughout 2022, with more than 25% of the complaints involving allegations of sexual violence, according to a recent local government report. 25% of the cases for sexual violence. These are kids. These are minors. These are people that trust their teachers, that trust adult figures that are supposed to be to trust people who are supposed to guide them. They're guiding them right into these situations. to put it mildly.
I will say that it's been evidence that for some reason school has not become safe anymore. And I mean that specifically about these sexual allegations. Like, how many teachers have we seen sleeping with students? How many teachers have we seen, doing various things and found guilty? Like, what is going on? It has to be a cultural, it has to be an ideological thing because it's happening everywhere. And apparently, Chicago is just one of the leading, culprits of this, which is, honestly bonkers how high these numbers are.
It's appalling. Like it's disgusting. It's appalling. But
So,
you've seen how things are going. We've all seen how things are going. This is just
so
this is the unfortunate reality.
let me pose a question though. What do you think is causing this? Why is this happening in schools?
I mean, it's like I said, everything's a slippery slope, and everyone always likes to say when you try to mention this, you're comparing trans or gay people or anything like that. You're comparing them to groomers, not necessarily, but again, the slippery slope is there when you start introducing all of this hyper sexualized stuff into schools. When everyone starts becoming a part of the sexual revolution, this is what you end up having. Not a little off to the side, but like you look at California, for example, where in California, I want to make sure this is put the right way so that someone doesn't be like you're wrong, you're saying it wrong, you're gaslighting or whatever the fancy buzzword they use is. But like in California, if you didn't know, it's a statutory rape is essentially legal between like a 14 and a 24-year-old. I believe it's verbatim, or I don't know if that's the right word, but it's by the court, like they can choose. But a 14-year-old can have sex with a 24-year-old. The criteria is 10 years or something like that. And the guy, the 24-year-old, could not be charged with any sort of like rape charge or anything. Or I think it is maybe they don't have to be put on a sex offender registry. And it's scary stuff, but this is the byproduct of what you get from the top of that slippery slope.
So you think it's an issue of we're talking about sex in schools quite prolifically. I mean, you shared something earlier with us about not you, Brandon, about Nick. Sorry, I completely spaced on your name for a second there.
It's all good. It's all good.
But Nick shared with us a post earlier from Timcast, I believe.
Yes,
talking
my favorite go-to newsroom, Timcast.
Yes. Okay.
The report is Governor Newsom's wife's company made over $1.4 million charging public schools to screen sexually explicit gender documentaries.
And it's being shared in schools.
Yes. In the third paragraph of the article, the watchdog group found that, according to the Representation Project Impact Report, between 2011 and 2021, the organization's film curricula are being used in over 5,000 schools in all 50 states. The Representation Project claims over 11,200 copies of the curricula have been distributed, reaching more than 2.6 million students.
Jeez.
Yeah, I mean, how many students do we have in schools right now? I probably maybe there's 300 million people in America, so you assume what, a third of that? I mean, that's still a large percentage of that. That's a large percentage of people in America that it's sharing that are currently in schools, and that's one company doing this.
Yeah,
that's one company. So it's clear that we're definitely seeing the side effects of prolifically talking about sex in schools.
According to the U.S. Census Bureau from December 3rd, 2019, there's nearly 77 million students enrolled in U.S. schools. So, even though the videos only reached 2.6 million of them, as I say that like it's a small number, that's still 2.6 million minors that are being shown these, if I could be frank, pornographic images and sexual content in their schools.
I mean, even
And
even just a couple of students would be a problem. It could be less than 10 students, but still more than 0. That would still be a problem. A lot of things now that they show people is it's just softcore porn that we've been desensitized to.
I completely agree. And it's not an issue of if they were just sharing knowledge, like actual good knowledge to know. And I'm a proponent of parents should have the right to choose, like on that topic specifically, whether they want their children to learn that in a school environment by a teacher that they don't know the political ideologies that might be, undertoned while sharing this information. But if, say, the parent does accept those rights, and I believe in a lot of states in middle schools that is the case, or especially in elementaries, you have to sign off. But I know in other states, oftentimes the parents don't know anything about this stuff. They don't know this is occurring. But it's clear that in our society these days, sex has just become prolific. It's everywhere. And it's even in our schools. And they're sharing things that oftentimes, if parents knew were being shared, they would be appalled to learn that's what's happening. And that's what's being shown to their, 14, 15-year-olds.
And it's
I mean,
very unfortunate. I'm sorry. You want to believe, or parents likely want to believe that they're safe in school, but a portion, a small portion, but a portion of blame has to be put on them themselves for not taking the time to look at the stuff that that they're reading, that they're being given. I mean, have you seen some of the books that are in these schools? It's every time I see it, it's an ad for homeschooling. Like I'm homeschooling my kids. Like there's no debate. If I have the capacity to, which I damn well plan to, I will be homeschooling my kids, and I think everyone should if they have the capacity. Of course, some people don't, but if you could, you just should at this point. There's who knows what's gonna happen? You want to say not my kids. You can try to teach them what you could at home, but at the end of the day, they're at school for 8 hours a day. You see them before work when you get them out the door, maybe a little bit when you get home from work, and then that's pretty much it. And they have summer with them. So who knows what could happen? Who knows what sort of indoctrination they could be brought into?
I mean, hell, speaking of books that you were bringing up, there are books that have been spoken of quite frequently that are on that I know Amazon has labeled as 18 plus that are in middle schools and high schools across the US. It is a little book that is called Gender Queer. And the book is so explicit you cannot show the images of anything in the book on YouTube. There is sexual content between minors left and right throughout the entirety of the book. You can't describe what these kids are doing at all. But whenever parents bring it up in student teacher conferences, they are escorted out because they are using explicit language at the conference, even though they are reading excerpts from the book that the Board of Education allows inside their schools.
I think that when people go to these conferences and like they always shut off their mic, they should just bring a megaphone with them so that they can keep talking. Either that or go with a bunch of people and every time they switch to a new person, just continue reading from where they left off. That's what I would do. Like, God forbid I have to send my kids to a public school. And this is the type of shit that happens. I'll be going in there like that. I'll bring fucking I know damn well I can get Wyatt to fly out. I can get a few people to come out. I get my fucking wife. We'll all go in there and we'll just continue reading down the list. Like
Well, the
it's
thing is,
funny, but it's disgusting though.
they try and hide behind, oh well, you're trying to ban books. You're trying to ban books. People have the freedom to read whatever they want. You're a school. Everything in your library should be related to school. Why would you have anything in there? And I get, okay, some kids want to read fiction, if they want to, you should have, Aragon or fictitious books like The Lord of the Rings or whatever. That's a personal input there. But yes, it's just confusing as to why you would have all of these non-educational explicit books in a school,
because they consider it educational, and these are also the same people that want to ban books like To Kill a Mockingbird because it has the N-word in it.
which has largely been regarded as a very, very good piece of literature and is still taught in most schools that I've been in today.
So,
So
yeah.
there's a
Uh,
lot of lessons to learn. In fact, it is a book up against racism. So I don't know how you could really ban that book for being racist when it is speaking against racism. Like, that's the culture that we live in today. It's explicitly because of one word mentioned in a book. You're going to ban a book that's speaking against that word.
These people don't think.
They're in a cult. They are all cultists. It is a cult-like mentality, and it's not just strictly one side of the aisle. You can look at both sides and see the cult members on both sides. However, the cult controls the mainstream media. The cult controls all of your media that you like to consume, such as the big names like Star Wars, Marvel, everything like that. They control. They control the entertainment. They control the schooling. They control the media. That's their cult. And if you speak out against it, you have the entire weight of all those branches coming down on you. So at this point, it's easier just to sit back and not say anything about it because you don't want the whole weight of everything coming down on you.
I think that this day and age is, it's sad, but it's true. You have to educate your kids about how to go to school, like what mindset to go to school with. That's what it's coming to. Is you're going to have to sit down your kid and say, "Hey, look, this is what's happening with schools. You're going to have access to all these books. Here's why you shouldn't read them. Here's why you shouldn't pick those up. Here's why you should talk to me and, let's have an open dialogue about what's going on." And that's why you should be sitting down with your kids and, helping them with their homework so that you can see what they're being learned and ask them, "Hey, how was your day? What happened today at school?" So that you know what is being taught, both directly and subliminally to your children. Because it's good to be aware of these things, and you're not going to know otherwise.
I mean,
Need to be aware.
I know that it's not what we're talking about, but it has to do with the whole subject on schooling and kids. I think that schooling and all these like hypersexualized activities and all of these teachers who are trying to hide things from the parents of all the students, and a lot of reasons why parents are not involved as much anymore is because the family unit's just being completely broken now. Like look at all the single mother homes. Look at I can't even say single father because that's not real. The family unit's not a thing anymore. There's very few family units where a mother and a father actually take interest in the kid.
Yeah, the American nuclear family. I don't want to say it's gone. We as ourselves will likely have what is considered a quote unquote American nuclear family because we're reasonable individuals. But they want to destroy it. I think it's very interesting. I think it was Super Bowl ads. Someone was particularly watching the Super Bowl ads to look and see if they can spot any straight family. And I'm pretty sure I could be wrong, but I think not one Super Bowl ad portrayed like a hetero, like male and female. I think it was all either gay or lesbian or trans couples. It was something like that, something crazy like that. And again, people want to be like, you're comparing this group and that group to this. Again, no, but it's a slippery slope. It's part of it. It's part of the problem. There's a norm, and then there's not norm.
I wouldn't necessarily say that whether you're a part of that community where if you're gay or if you're a lesbian, I'm not necessarily saying that the fact that that's your sexual preference is the issue. It is the overrepresentation where you cannot speak out against it whatsoever or else you're going to be attacked.
Absolutely.
You can't say that I don't want this directly being taught and like subliminally pushed upon my children. That's what I have an issue with it. You can do whatever you want. I don't care. I'm a proponent for freedom as long as it does not impose upon somebody else's beliefs or you're not harming anybody else in the process of practicing what you want to do. I am 100% behind that. The only time I have an issue is when you're a teacher and you're assaulting children, as is with the case in what's happening in Chicago, where you're a teacher and you're pushing upon them ideologies and onto impressionable young minds. And that's having all of these effects that are being seen.
I mean, how I am a very, very huge Ron DeSantis fan, and I love that he's trying to be the front stage on this culture war against this cult. I mean, he's come out multiple times, and how he's even trying to work with state legislator right now to stop sex change procedures and drugs being given to minors. I mean, when you get to be 18, the legal age, and you decide that, hey, this is what I want to do, that's you. You should be able to follow whatever makes you happy as long as it's not hindering on other people. But when you're talking about kids and you're talking about parents willing to let their kids do this, they're too young. They don't know what's going on yet. They don't know that it is life changing and life altering to the point where you can't go back once you start a lot of these puberty blockers.
You can't go back. You simply can't for all
Yeah.
of them. And I would agree with most of that statement. And while a part of the pure like American in me wants to agree with, do what you want, and I do, I guess you can say agree with do what you want, but you also kind of have to realize that just because you want to mutilating yourself as a man does not make you a woman. It makes you someone who needs help, and we should rather be focusing on pushing towards more help for people who have those feelings rather than validation. You don't need to validate illness or like something we'll actually go into with in a little bit here whenever we've all established our opinion here. I don't want to go too much into it right now, but stuff with Mr. Beast with like the ableist stuff. We'll go into that in a few minutes here. I think I've pretty much said my piece.
All I'm going to say is I think that we should form a base, like give people, sorry,
You're all right.
give people a solid platform, make things an even keel, support people, do whatever we can to support them, and make people comfortable to be who they are. I don't completely agree with personally a lot of the things that are occurring, but if that at the end of the day, after having a solid culture and after having a solid family experience is what you want to do, that's what you want to do. 100%. I'm not going to impose upon that. I'm not going to prevent that. But don't be pushing that upon other people. And don't try and make that the normality. Because at the end of the day, that isn't the normality. That's a very, very distinct minority of people that want those things. Should not be impeded upon if that's really what you want to do. But it should not be made to seem like a normality. But it should not be oppressed either.
I mean, I think everybody has the right to life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, as long as you don't push that your feelings or your wants upon other people who have no way to defend themselves against it, such as the children that we've been talking about at the schools, or parents pushing their ideology on their kids. You should give people the information and let them make the decision themselves. You shouldn't be told how to think. You shouldn't be told that what you think is wrong. Think within reason. Within reason. Nazis are bad. But
These are bad. That is
Everybody can agree on that one, I think.
I think we can all agree on that one at least.
But like you get what I'm saying. Like you shouldn't force your opinions or your beliefs on anybody. You should give them the information and let them make the decision themselves.
I again, kind of like I said, I agree. To me though, I personally I'm a big believer of objective reality, and again, I can't much as I want to say just as the pure American, do what you want, it's America, whatever type of deal. you shouldn't be chopping yourself up and claiming you're the other gender. That's not it's not possible. Like theoretically there's no such thing as transgender. These people they need help. They don't need affirmation. They need help. Like
I mean,
it's become this thing where you want to affirm people for their whatever you want to call it, disability, mental illness, anything like that, rather than help it if possible.
man, YouTube is not going like that.
Nope.
Oh well.
Yeah, yeah, they're not
Oh
they're
well.
not gonna like that. But you know, if I believe who I heard say that the other day was Michael Knowles, big Michael Knowles guy. And I that's what I gotta say. Going off from that though, if everyone said what they gotta say, right, with that.
Oh yeah. Oh
I've said
yeah.
my piece. Yeah.
Going off from that, you know, Mr. Beast, he cured 1,000 people's blindness. Beautiful, beautiful thing. Amazing for him to do. Kind of to offshoot what I was gonna say before with that is, but people are attacking him for it, calling him ableist because he's like they don't need to be cured. Like, what do you mean cured these people's blindness? So like shut the hell up.
He cured their blindness. He allowed them to be able to see again. He's allowing them to be productive members of society again and allowing them to live their lives the way that they couldn't do when they had the illness, that the way that they couldn't do when they couldn't see. Think of all the things that these people now have the opportunity to do.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's you know, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing that he's done, and people are calling him ableist for it though. It's just a whole load of bull crap. Um,
But why is he
oh,
responsible for it? Why
I was
should
just
he
about
be
to
the
say
why should he be the one to have to do something that in reality the government should do? The government should try to go out of the ways instead of sending millions and millions of dollars overseas to countries that don't really need the money for aid. Why don't we just try to help Americans first? Make Americans the ones who Americans should be the one to receive the money for to help
absolutely.
life
And
changing
I'm not
medical technology.
I'm not someone who agrees with like the universal health care or anything like that. You know, you gotta pay for a lot of things for a reason. But Mr. Beast even said in his video, or Jimmy Donaldson is his name. He had said it's a 10-minute surgery. It is a 10-minute surgery. I don't know how much it cost, but you can take that 100 million that you sent to Ukraine to fuel that war machine of Zelensky, and you could have used it to help more Americans get back into the workforce by recovering their blindness.
I was I was watching a video and ha 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 take a shot. Nick said Tim Pool again. I was watching a video from Tim Pool who is just talking about how if it's a $2,000 surgery, the way it was displayed in the Mr. Beast video, $2,000 to $6,000 surgery. If you're bringing someone back into the workforce with a $2,000 to $6,000 surgery, depending on the person, think of their entire life that they have to be productive to society. Think of their entire life, how you're going to make all that money back and then some from taxes, which is theft. However, I'll come back on that. Think about all the good that person can do. Now, from just the $2,000 to $6,000 that you change their entire life for. And now, I'm not a huge fan of universal health care, but there should be universal basic health care where you break your leg, okay, we can cover that. You need to have life-changing surgery for 10 minutes to be able to see again. Okay, we should cover that. Now, if you're talking about some kind of surgery that's millions and millions of dollars that is just being researched on, yeah, you should pay that yourself. But the government should be able to try to help out with the basic necessities.
I can agree with that. I can get behind that.
I agree that
Yeah.
it would very, very much help Americans if, you know, there was some form of universal healthcare. Not to say like everything, but some form of it. I think that a
Take
lot of the issues these days, though, is just the absurd placed onto these procedures mostly. Like it's a one of the downfalls, unfortunately, of a capitalist society is when there's essential monopolies in the medicine and medical fields and really very few checks and balances on it. This is what happens is $400,000 bills being given to you unless you have insurance. And the insurance companies love it because they're making killings off of the people that nowadays you have to have insurance in order to live in America, essentially. Like you can't do anything. You can't go to the dentist's office without insurance, essentially, or else it's going to be
Yeah.
cost through the roof. And Trump tried to kind of battle that a little bit by making all these prices open and trying to have essentially a competition between hospitals that would battle the prices down. I mean, it didn't work out nearly as much as I personally had hoped or how I imagined he had hoped. But it was a step in the right direction. And I think that that's really what we should focus on first rather than anything else, because otherwise it's just going to be the federal government paying those absurd prices that these hospitals and doctors' offices and all these pharmaceutical companies are labeling everything like, oh, you want this pill that cost us 10 cents to make, we're going to charge you $50 or $100 or $1,000 even. It's just absurd, the prices that they're labeling and giving to products that I can guarantee you, sure, they have maybe $1 million, $2 million in R&D, but the actual cost to manufacture is likely cents on the dollar.
So my only rebuttal to that is, which I do agree with a lot of what you're saying, I would much rather pay exorbitant prices for that instead of sending bombs overseas to go bomb kids. Like, take away the money from the military industrial complex that America just funds all throughout the whole world and try to put that money back at home. You gotta you, you gotta go after the major corporations who do nothing but price gouge. You gotta go after the quote unquote monopolies, even though they're not monopolies, but we all know that they are. You gotta go after them. You gotta go after big pharma. But they're never gonna go after big pharma because that's where they get a lot of their money from.
No, I agree with you. Like, yes, we should draw back and focus more of our money here. Absolutely. So I guess we're on the same page.
Same page, just different ways of going about it. I want to go after big pharma. I think that big pharma it should not be trusted at all, especially when you see everything that's going on with Pfizer, especially with them having what was it, a $2.4 billion fine that the federal government put on them for mislabeling their medication back in the early 2000s. I think they had another several $1 billion fine after that for another mislabeling for misadvertising.
So
Like
I
the
actually heard about this just before we started. I was watching something regarding the actor for Shazam, and they mentioned it. It's actually the biggest dollar amount
mhm.
ever. Like I don't remember the word. It's the biggest amount charged ever for like a false advertisement claim or something like that.
I mean, and it's well deserved in many of these cases. Like
Yeah,
the
of
opioid
course.
crisis is because of big pharma in a lot of ways. It's all of these rampant misuse of pharmaceutical drugs is largely because they're readily available and they're being prescribed to everybody. As if you want one, here you go. Here's one. It's a rampant issue.
They let me rephrase what I said earlier. Pfizer paid 2.3 billion on they paid the largest civil false claims act settlement record with 2.3 billion, and but Glaxo's has the largest dollar amount at 3 billion. Either way, in the billions of dollars for companies that have our quote unquote best interests at heart. End of quote.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
I mean, how many times have you guys gone onto YouTube and saw an ad for some medicine, and it was ask your doctor if insert name here is right for you, but they don't tell you what the medicine does. It's just a long list of this can happen. You want an antidepressant? Oh well, side effects may include thoughts of suicide. So
It
you're gonna
really
take
yeah.
you're gonna take an antidepressant that can lead you to have thoughts of suicide? Like what? That seems
I
kind of
mean,
counterproductive.
yeah, it's all a load of it's all a load of bullshit.
It's
He's not
funny.
gonna
It's like they were making you know where LSD came from?
The government.
Well, it was made. No, LSD came from a corporation that was trying to make a drug to help with an eating disorder. And then they found out that it had all of these side effects, and you would trip balls when you took it. And so they're like, what are we gonna do with this? And now it's become one of the, like a very prolific drug. Big
That's
pharma,
wild.
it's big
I didn't
pharma.
know that. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
it was made by a pharmaceutical company to fight against an eating disorder.
I didn't
Like,
know that. Interesting.
So you need to take this medicine for the disorder. Now you need to take this medication because the side effects from the
oh
original
yeah,
medicine you took,
it's cyclical.
it's too much to take. So now you need to take this one. Now you need to take this one. Now you need to take this, and all of them counteract what the side effects of the previous drug does.
You can go into the doctor's office with a headache, and they'll give you 50 pills 2 years down the line because this one didn't work, but it started to work, and so you need this one because it's counteracting the side effects of the first one. But now you need this one because the second one is making you not want to eat. So now you want to eat, but now you're eating too much. It's just a cyclical thing.
It's all on purpose.
Well, it's money.
It's all to make more and more money. Yeah,
But
and nothing's ever going to happen because they line the pockets of all of our representatives.
getting back to the Mr. Beast thing, I mean, it was very, very. I don't see how anybody can look at this and criticize this. This was him finding people that clearly wanted this surgery. Like, it's not him going and forcing the surgery upon people. Clearly wanted this surgery, and being a philanthropist and giving them this ability and literally giving them their sight back. Like, how can anybody criticize that?
Because they're dumb.
Because he's a curist. He thinks they all have disabilities and they have to be cured.
When did he say that?
Enabling.
He's coming to these people and offering them this. I'm sure he did not come to them and be like, "Hey, you're going to get the surgery or else you're going to die."
Absolutely. I mean,
So how can you call him
like
an
I was saying
ableist
before.
if he's not forcing people to do something, and he's not even saying that you're going to be better because of this? He's just giving these people the opportunity and enabling them to do it, because otherwise they wouldn't have been able to afford it. It's clear philanthropy at its finest.
Oh, you gotta love it. He is a magnificent human being for doing what he's doing. He does not deserve the hate that he gets for it. I mean, hell, he came out with a statement after he started getting hate saying that he is going to be donating every penny he makes before he dies. So like he's making millions and millions and millions of dollars and he's just giving it away. I mean, that's what he's built his whole brand on, is just giving away phenomenal gifts to people who need it.
And in a funny way, it's become like, oh, well, this is the people's way of helping each other out, because obviously he's making this money because the people are watching him. The people are enabling him to do this. So it's an interesting way this one person has become the people's way of kind of using the marketing industry, because that's who's giving him all this money, is the marketing industry and all these corporations. But essentially it's the people using these corporations to do good, and that's the poetic justice of this.
Oh yes, I agree.
Yeah, everyone's giving him a hard time, and he's undeserved, just load of bullshit. That's
Agreed.
that's kind of just the only part of that opinion that exists or is relevant. There's really nothing much else to say about it.
Well,
People are just ridiculous.
very true. Sadly, about a lot of things, it's true that people are just a little bit ridiculous these days. But if everybody said their piece,
Oh yeah.
I do believe so. I think that I think that's a good amount for today. I think we can wrap it up. We don't have Wyatt here to give a lovely, lovely quote, which we've decided only he will be doing, so we won't be doing that. Um, so I'd say that's about it.
all
Oh
right.
yeah.
Alrighty,
Yeah,
so I would
definitely
say
definitely check us out on Twitter. We could always use your support. We are the Whiskey Boys podcast at Twitter. You can tag us at Whiskey Boy Pod.
absolutely. Check us out everywhere, Instagram as well. I believe it's Whiskey Boy Podcast on there, whiskey.boy.podcast. As well as on TikTok, which we will be starting to post stuff on as soon as we figure out how to. It's gonna be WB underscore podcast. I appreciate those of you who joined us today. I see there are at least a few of you, and we will catch you all on the flip.
Thank you guys.
Oh yes. Yes, thank you all for your support. Really helps.